Because a video was put out an hour ago by a certain masked stranger. The shares a bit of proclivities that I do. And so he put out a video about shared proclivities, shared interests, shared desires. And we're going to take a look at it. So let us take a look at Lord Intellectual's video on BDSM for beginners, how to start safely involving consent and aftercare. Something that I have chosen interest in. So, as this is something I have a certain interest in, there's going to be a lot of talking. There will undoubtedly be some lewdness taking place here. If you have a problem with lewdness or lewd topics, run away now. Okay, the warning has been given. Let's dive in.
Hello there.
Wait, okay, I forgot he is on this side of the screen. So I am going to, because I don't think he's moving. I think he's in PNG mode for this entire thing. So I'll move over here and chat. I'm going to be moving you up here. I do believe you will not be blocking any of his visuals, so we should be good there.
Lord Intellectual, why are we here? I hear you ask. Well, that's a rather profound question, viewer. But the reason we're here today, specifically, is because Hollywood gets it wrong. And watching it from Hollywood and feeling it in the moment are two entirely different experiences. And I can assure you that nothing can prepare you for the first time someone puts their chain into your hands. Now, everyone always starts.
Okay, I'm going to give you fair warning right now. If he brings up, you know what, I will go on a rant. Fair warning right now, if he brings up, you know what, and I know if he does so, he will bring it up as a criticism, but be warned, I will go off. Okay? So be prepared. And thank you for the tier 1 sniper bait.
Everyone always imagines themselves as being the one holding the chain. But I want you to come with me. We're going to go through a thought experiment, and I hope to reveal something to you about yourself in this. And it will also help you be a better partner, which we're going to circle back around to in a moment. So I want you to imagine having someone that you want to take your chain. I want you to imagine the complete and absolute surrender of your autonomy into the hands of someone you trust at a deep and intimate level. I want you to imagine being able to cast aside all of your defenses, the cynicism, the dark humor, the detachment, the indifference, all of these things that we build up over the course of the day to protect ourselves from the world, and to be truly seen by someone when you are at your most vulnerable with all the pretense, all the plausible deniability.
Vulnerable and most helpless, deliciously, delightfully helpless.
Stripped away, to have a person that you care so deeply for look at you without any mask, at your ugliest and your most bare, and still have them truly and unreservedly want you. This is a level of euphoria that I hope each of you get to experience at least once in your lives.
Which, by the way, is known as subspace. Well, actually, no. No. I retract that. It'd be more of dom space. What he's referring to, it's a duality. What he's kind of referencing both. He's referring to the submissive getting into a place of the euphoria. For the submissive is called subspace. For the dominant, engaging in the domination that also experiences that euphoria would be their dom space. So it's when he's saying, the euphoria of seeing someone at your most vulnerable, your most helpless, sometimes even your ugliest moments, and still be desired. That would be subspace. Um, for the dom, it's having that sub look at you and just completely give themselves over to you and just like bare their soul to you. That is when the dom would go into like a dom space.
Now, I want you to take that. I want you to take those feelings and that imagination, and let's return back to the original assumption, where someone going through all of this has put that chain into your hands. Feel that chain, feel the weight in your hand, in your dominant hand. You will be amazed and a little frightened as it starts to dawn on you just how great the lengths that you will go to in order to protect this beautiful, intricate, overlooked partner of yours.
And I don't know if he's going to get into this. It can also be terrifying. Being a dominant can also be very terrifying because while you have this immense power over your submissive partner, there's a natural inclination to be scared. Am I going to go too far? Am I going to ruin this experience? Is this person going to suddenly turn and go, I don't want to be submissive to you. This is not working. Do what, do you go harder? Do you go softer? Do you change things up and go a different route? And it can be very easy for a dominant to grossly overthink it. Oh, good to overthink things. That's why, in some ways, being a submissive is far easier than being a dominant. As a submissive, you basically just have to let go. One of the hardest parts of being a submissive is to let go. Whereas with the dominant, you have to maintain control. You really have to seize maintaining control and not allow yourself to go too far, not to break the boundaries of your submissive. So in that way, the balance there is it can be challenging. It can be a very challenging balance, particularly for the dominant, because it can be very easy to lose your grip on that control when you are in the heat of the moment. You're in the heat of the moment, you are locked in, and you're so locked in that you don't recognize the signs from your submissive outside of a safe word. You don't recognize the signs from your submissive that, oh, I'm going too far, I need to back off, or I need to change and go a different route on something. So realistically, I will say that being a dominant is actually far more difficult and challenging than being a submissive. Because again, as a submissive, the hardest thing for you is to simply let go and trust your dominant, and that's it. It realistically it is, in my opinion, easier for the submissive in this regard.
Surge of power within you as you realize you would reshape the world for them, with the earth just being so much raw clay in your hands. Am I starting to get through to you? Welcome, one and all. It is a pleasure. If you are not familiar with myself, I do typically do political content, so this is a bit of a stray outside of the usual topics of my videos, but it is an area in which I am intimately familiar, and being Lord Intellectual, it is all about that sharing of knowledge, and I believe the time is right to give you some of that knowledge. So I have put together this little presentation, let's say, about how to dip your toes into the water, because I do care about you, and this is a very exciting period.
Actually, demand decision. Okay, chat, I think you're gonna get, I'm gonna give you a little treat, because I think for the remainder of this react,
I think it would only be fitting for me to use this voice for the remainder of this react. I think it would only be appropriate. Don't you agree? I'd like to think so. Oh, yes. Thank you, Kratz. Thank you for the gifted. And just because it is a quote Tommy Mommy voice doesn't mean I can't get, soft and submissive and squirmy and, well, just be your demure little girl for the remainder of this react.
When you do start to get involved in it, and I want to make sure that you're all doing it safely. So we are going to have some people who are part of the BDSM community in here, and if you are, please drop by the comments and have a look at what people are saying, because we are going to have a lot of, let's say, eager newbies down in the comments asking about this, and it would be a great time to help them into the community as well. But moving past...
Actually, give me a moment, if you would, chat. Just one moment, please. Thank you very much, Kiss of Envy. Thank you very much. Chat, give me 1 second. I want to check something.
Okay, chat, what do you think of this one? It's far less mommy, but it's also softer than my normal one. So what do you think of this one for the rest of this react? How do we think of this one? Do we like, does this one sound, does this sound much more dainty and feminine? Dainty and feminine, perhaps? We like this one, do we? Okay, we'll go with this one. All right, we'll go with this one.
Let's focus on some core tenets. I've prepared some of these for you, and if there's going to be one thing you take away from this video, I want you to understand that whether it's BDSM or basically anything else in life, but particularly in this line of interest, you need to understand that the most important thing is consent and aftercare.
Very important.
Anyone in the community or pretending to be in the community ignores either of these, they are not someone you want to associate with. We always need to establish consent. And you might not know what aftercare is. We'll swing back around to that in a little bit.
And when we get around to that, I do have a story for that one as well. Oh shoot. 1 moment, please. Apologies. Scout knocked over something in the kitchen. I had to go clean it up. My apologies. Let's get right back into it.
But everyone dips their toes into this line at some point, and it usually starts with restricting movement. That's one of the best ways to build trust. But you're not going to do any of that unless you have pre-discussed that consent. All consent needs to be discussed prior to make sure that everyone is going to be, most importantly, safe, secondly, comfortable, and being able to release themselves. So
yes,
starting slow is probably the most important thing that you can do. When you're selecting a dom or a submissive, what you want to look for is someone who asks you, someone who learns you, someone who respects you enough to say no, whilst also willing enough to say yes. It's good to start with restricted movement to build that trust. The process is slower than you might expect, because in order to truly let yourself go, to truly be able to enjoy yourself, you need to have a deep and intimate trust in your partner. And
okay, she did skip over a little bit of something. Before you even start slow to build trust, one thing that is vital when it comes to playing with a partner, doing a scene with a partner, is establishing limits. Before you even begin, you need to talk candidly with the person you are intending to play with and establish what your limitations are, what are your hard limits, and what are your soft limits. Hard limits being, I am not going to do that at all. It is completely off the table. We will not be doing this at all. Soft limits are, I'm unsure about this, and I might be able. I'm inclined to go with perhaps building myself up to engaging in this particular activity, but I need to be built up to it. We can't just jump into it head first. There has to be a buildup. So you absolutely must establish hard and soft limits. And of course, as some of you have already said, you need to establish a safe word or multiple safe words, as the case may be. Safe words being, usually, typically speaking, there are 3 safe words. A lot of many people that engage in BDSM when they first start out will typically use the classics green, yellow, red. Explanation: the different differentiating colors should be self-explanatory, but in case it's not, it would be in this particular example, red would mean hard stuff. It has gone too far and the scene needs to come to an end immediately. Red basically means everything stops, scene is over, we need to figure out what is not going right here and start over again because something occurred with, and by the way, safe words is for both the dominant and the submissive, because dominants use safe words as well. Don't think that a safe word is only for the submissive. Dominants can have safe words too, because sometimes a submissive will try and push the dominant into doing things that they are not comfortable with either. It is a two-way street here. So if either party gets pushed into a place where they are in no way comfortable with and they will not do, and they are, and it's no bueno, you would use the red or whatever safe word is chosen for that action, and the scene stops dead, and you talk and you evaluate what happened, what is going on, and how can things be changed. Yellow would be someone is starting to feel uncomfortable in a way that is not enjoyable. It's not the fun kind of uncomfortable. They're starting to feel uncomfortable. They're starting to feel nervous. They're worried, and it's usually an indication to slow it down. It's just to start slow things down. It's moving a little bit too fast. We're going into an area that I'm uncertain of. I'm kind of getting uncomfortable with. So slow things down to maybe ease one party into this particular activity, and go from there. Green, obviously, go, go, go. Green meaning, oh, I am feeling so lovely right now. Please, dear master, give me more of that. That would be what green is. And typically speaking, during a scene, typically it would be the dominant will, every once in a little while, ask the submissive, where are you at? In which case the submissive would respond green, yellow, or red, or the safe words that are assigned to those particular facets. So that is something that usually gets established before you even start. All of this that I've just mentioned does typically occur before you even start slowly. You have to have the rules, the boundaries, the communication first before anything happens. This could be you actually have coffee at a local coffee shop or restaurant or something, almost like a first date, to lay everything out before any kinky activity even begins.
At the start, you'll be a little giddy, you'll be a little excited, and that's cute. Enjoy yourself, your partner, your time together, have fun. But you'll come to realize the depth of intimacy, passion, and especially surrender when you truly trust in your partner. It just can't be rivaled by sex alone. Now, allow me to share some of my knowledge with you, both
And okay, key thing that he just said there. Here, listen to this again.
and especially surrender. When you truly trust in your partner, it just can't be rivaled by sex alone.
Something to note there. And this may shock you guys. BDSM does not always involve sex. It is not unheard of for a BDSM scene not to have any sex whatsoever. That is actually more common than you would realize. There are plenty of people that will have an entire beach scene and there will be no intercourse at all. It is literally just engaging in the scene, bringing the submissive into subspace, the dom into dom space, and there is no hella whatsoever. That is more common than you would know. So don't go into BDSM thinking it will always end in sex because it may not. It absolutely may not conclude with sex. That is something to be aware of. This is why, the typical quote unquote normie, I guess, or vanilla. Actually, I'll use the vanilla. The typical vanilla person, when they think of BDSM, they think tie the girl down to the bed and fuck her brains out. That's what the typical vanilla person thinks. That's not always the case. In actual BDSM, there may be no fucking. There may be no oral. There may be no actual sexual contact whatsoever. It all depends upon you as the individual and your partner as the individual. That's where the talking and communication is crucial.
Now, allow me to share some of my knowledge with you, both to keep you safe and help you to be a better partner. Now, when you start restricting movement, a lot of people will start with the handcuffs. Now, if you didn't know this, there are different grades of handcuffs, and usually when you just go to your local special interest shop, shall we say, the handcuffs you'll get there are actually quite easy to get out of. It does depend, so do be cautious. Most of them you will be able to force open with enough strength, but depending on the position you're in, that can be uncomfortable to say the least. But most will also have a very large lever.
Oh, this will go on YouTube. We're watching this on YouTube right now. It's this will go up on YouTube because this is educational. This is not me, being all tinky and being lewd. This is legitimately educational. And I don't know if intellectual is going to say it. Starting with handcuffs is actually a bad idea. It's yes, I will flag it. Starting with handcuffs is actually not a good idea. Because there are considerations when using handcuffs that as a newbie in BDSM, you won't recognize. Handcuffs can very, very easily cut off blood flow to the wrists, either by tightening them up too much or simply the like laying, like say, just simply exerting pressure on the wrists by the way they've been binding can cut off blood flow to the wrists. Well, that was what I was going to suggest. It is actually far better to start off with. He's talking about going to a specialty shop. At the specialty shop, you can also get several soft bondage kits, which would involve soft foam Velcro closure restraints, like plush, cushiony restraints that are secured via Velcro. And you can use those to bind limbs together, bind limbs to a hard point like a bed, and there's a far less risk of causing potential skin or nerve damage in the way handcuffs do. So that would be, in my opinion, would be a far better thing to start off with. You can buy them on Amazon.
You literally can buy them on Amazon. They are, I would estimate, $20. 20, but not even strips of leather. Go with nylon webbing. And what are they usually made out of? It's just like a plush, sometimes foam, cushiony wrist cuff. And again, you can get them for like $20 on Amazon. They're quite inexpensive. And when you're first starting out, it's safer than handcuffs.
That is fairly easy to push from any position that will immediately release you. So we get to the idea of building trust. So you're not going to be able to jump straight into the deep end in most cases where you're fully tied up. If you're a rope bunny, you are going to have to build up to that. But these
Metal handcuffs can be fun if you know what you're doing with them. Absolutely. There is something delicious about being restrained with inflexible handcuffs. They are more restrictive, and your movements are far more limited when you have handcuffs. Not to mention, with proper handcuffs, you know you can't get out of them without a key. With the foam restraints, they're Velcro. Theoretically, you could probably fairly easily get out of them. Cable ties, you would definitely want very thick ones. Cable ties, you don't want to use those when you're first starting out. Cable ties is a bad choice for a start. We are talking about as a beginner, you've never engaged in this before, and you are at the first time. So I would not recommend cable ties for a beginner.
cuffs. Having them clasped closed with your arms behind your back puts you in a vulnerable position. And I would suggest you actually start standing or sitting down in a seated position rather than lying down. So you get used to the idea that your partner is going to have power over you, or you're going to have power over your partner. And it's power that can be reversed at a moment's notice. And that's important because later on, as we get deeper and deeper into this, we're going to get into situations where it is harder to get out of. And at some point, you will detach from the shore and you will be floating in open water. And the only person who's going to be able to bring you back is your partner. And when you reach that moment of finally letting go of the shore, it can be a daunting experience. And
it can. Oh, yes.
A lot of people do tend to lose their nerve around this point. And that is...
it is the loss of control. It's a loss of control that you've never experienced before. And as human beings, an intrinsic part of being a human being is maintaining some form of control. That is human. Being a submissive means literally giving up all control. And that can be very scary the first time you do it. Completely giving it up, there's that you're at that precipice where you feel a sense of dread. And it's only, and then when you give up that last little bit of control, that's when your mind will allow the euphoria of the subspace to take over you and bring you to that higher mental plane where it's just bliss. But it can be difficult. It can be very difficult to do. It can be very difficult to let go of that last shred of control.
Entirely acceptable. You can withdraw your consent at any point. Clear communication is key here. So if you're finding yourself in a position with a partner who frequently ignores your consent, pushes through boundaries, goes faster than you're comfortable with, then you need to call that and you need to stop that. It doesn't matter how far you have come already. You can always stop at the point you're at. You don't have to go further. You are under no obligation. And your partner, if they are a good partner, should respect that.
Yes. And because getting pushed way beyond your boundaries way too fast can not only ruin the experience for you, it can turn you away from wanting to participate in this in the first place. That's why having a partner that is caring and respects your boundaries is crucial. I don't even want to think about how many people that wanted to try BDSM and got put and jump and got into it with someone who was inexperienced and just wanted to dive in to the deep end straight off the bat, push the submissive way beyond their limits, way too fucking fast, and basically turned them off of the entire activity, and they never went back to it again. I don't even want to think about how many people that has happened to. So that's why the communication is important, and that is why caring for your partner is crucial to this.
And when you are floating out on the open water, it is an experience in and of itself. And being the lifeline for that person is also it is great. It is a great honor. There's a great deal of satisfaction in that, knowing that you could damage this person, and the person knowing that you could damage them, but having that trust that they won't. And this is what it is all about. And this is why we build up to it slowly. And the first step to doing that is that restriction of movement. Start with those cuffs behind your back, sitting or standing. Once you're comfortable
I
with that,
recommend
once your
not
partner
cuffs.
has demonstrated that they can be trusted, and this is not all an elaborate ruse, because we are dealing with psychology here. And like it or not, on some level, there will be a self-preservation instinct within you that will say, this is a trick. This is a scam. I have been duped, and as soon as they have me in a compromising position, it is all going to go bad for me. And that is the
That is that last bit of control that as a person, you naturally do not want to give up. It's not a commentary on you as a person that you don't want to give up that last little bit of control for whatever reason. Intellectual said, the I guess you could call it paranoia that this could be a scam, that they're going to do something bad, or it could simply just be you as the individual just can't relinquish that last bit of control for whatever personal reason. It's perfectly natural, and it's just something that you have to work yourself through. And it may take time. It's not something that can be rushed. So that's just something to keep in mind. And actually, give me one moment, please. I do need to step away for a different reason this time. Bear with me one moment. I'll be right back. Apologies. No, it was not Scout. I actually got a phone call I had to address. Sorry about that. It's okay. It's fine. Just had a little bit of a phone call I had to take. Shall we continue?
instinct that we are trying to overcome, because until you do that, you're not going to be able to truly let yourself go and truly enjoy yourself. And that enjoyment is what we are after here today. Enjoyment whilst maintaining that safety. Okay? Now, once we have restricted movement, let's move on to choking, because this is, in my opinion, we getting into some editorializing here, but this is the next logical step, because once your movement is
I'm going to have to disagree with Intellectual on this one. In my opinion, for a beginner, someone that is just getting into this, I don't think that choking is the next logical step. In my opinion, if you are going to be in, if you're going to start with BDSM, choking is rather down the line. The next step up from restrictive movement would either be gags or maybe spanking. Choking because isn't that considered by people as vanilla? I don't know if it'd be considered vanilla. But yeah, but when you breath play is definitely something that is more advanced. Simply because there is a far greater risk of harm than multiple steps that come before it. I would say that after bondage, the step up from bondage would be either introducing gags or introducing something like spanking, crop, paddle, not even probably a flogger. I would say like like barehanded spanking, maybe a crop or maybe a paddle would be the next step up from bondage as you are moving through uh, how you would engage in like BDSM for the first time. This is very far down the line. We are multiple steps down the line at choking only because of the safety considerations, and this is not something you want to engage in when you are a someone that is new to this kind of play.
Restricted, okay, fairly easy to get out of, but you're not in an immediate microsecond danger. But if your partner has their hand around your throat, especially if they are larger and stronger than you, then your body starts to hit panic mode, or at some level, there
Yes.
is an instinct.
Oh, yes.
There is an instinct there, a survival instinct that kicks in that tells you should
Wait. Okay. Hang on. I think that he is not actually referencing breath play. I think it sounds like he is he's using the word choking, but it is more of performative. So I think this is not in reference to breath play, but more of just the cycle using choking where the dominant basically has the hand on the submissive throat and is like lightly squeezing but not actually restricting airflow, so using it in a more dominant performative method of I have control, not controlling both of them. No, that's I think he's not actually referring to that. I don't think he's referring to obstructing the windpipe, and I don't think he's talking about restricting blood flow through the artery. I don't think he's referring to either. I think he's just talking about the dominant, yeah, like a pressure tease. That is an excellent way to describe it. Just having the hand on the throat, applying a little bit, just a little pressure to exert dominance. Like I have, while you are tied up and helpless, the dominant has the hand on your throat, gives it just a little bit of a squeeze to say without speaking, I have total control of you. You are submissive and helpless before me. That may be what he's referencing here, not actual breath play. And in that instance, I'm okay with that. In that instance, that's I can see where he's saying that is the next step after bondage is the performative choking of exerting control.
not be in this situation. And this is where we start to get into those heightened emotions and those heightened feelings and that
He could
giddiness,
have
that
maybe, although he could have chosen a better word, but honestly, what better word could you provide of having the dominant having their hand on the submissive's throat? It's that the act alone is called choking. So I'm not sure what other word he could use to discuss this point.
heightened emotions and those heightened feelings and that giddiness, that flight or flight response that is so, I'm going to use the term delectable, but
Yes. Oh, yes.
insert whichever word you like here. Just know it is an
Stimulating.
experience, and I want you to imagine your partner looking down at you with their hands around your throat and the compromising position you are going to be in and the thrill that comes with that. Now, there's two primary methods for choking, or two primary goals for choking. Now,
It would not be throttling because throttling actually does mean to actually restrict airflow. When you say throttle someone, it actually means grab them by the throat and actually restrict blood or airflow. So no, throttling would not be an appropriate word in this case.
the vast majority of the BDSM community will tell you about the restriction of blood flow. And so that's what we're going to go over first. But in my experience, there is a second method, and I fully understand why the BDSM community does not bring that forward as the first thing, because it is a little more dangerous and you do need to know what you're doing. But I will
And
tell you
Dwayne,
about
that's
that.
fine. just wanting to be bound and that's it and no choking, that's fine. That's where communicating with your partner before you even begin is crucial. Where you can basically say, for this first time, the only thing I want you to do is tie me up and that's it. And there's nothing else that's going to happen. You work that out with your partner before you even begin. The ground rules are established. You try out being tied up, see how you like it, spend a little time being tied up, conclude the scene, and talk about the experience you had with your partner. There is absolutely nothing wrong doing it that way at all. It is perfectly fine.
Not only so that you can recognize when you're doing things wrong, but so that you do know there are extra steps, and the rabbit hole goes very deep once you start looking into this. So I want you to take your non-dominant hand for me. If you're right-handed, that means your left hand. If you're left-handed, that means your right hand. And I want you to flatten it into a straight palm, and I want you to spread your thumb and forefinger out. 4 fingers together, 1 thumb apart. Now I want you to press that gently about the middle of your neck, about halfway up your neck, I should say, around your windpipe. Now, this is the critical part that a lot of other BDSM creators will talk about. Our goal, at least initially, is not to restrict someone's airflow. That is not what we are trying to do, and that is one of the worst misconceptions that Hollywood gives. What we are doing instead is we are going to press very gently on the sides of the neck where you have a pair of arteries that deliver blood to the brain. And we're going to restrict that blood flow because that is going to starve the brain of oxygen just a little bit, and it's going to, in a lot of people, induce a sense of euphoria. You will experience a tingliness, you will experience a lightheadedness, and combine that with the fact that your adrenaline is already pumping, you're already on.
And this is where I disagree with him as a starting point. Although he did say that I think he did say that this particular method is not typically embraced by the BDSM community as a starting point. Again, when you are first starting out, you don't want to go this route when you are first starting out because now you are engaged in something that can be medically dangerous. Don't forget, the 2 arteries where he's talking about is essentially the same thing as basically putting someone it's the same concept of when you put someone into a sleeper hole. You are depriving the brain of blood flow specifically to get them to fall asleep. And this is anytime you're dealing with something where there is a medical type concern, you don't wanna do that straight away. That is something that comes with time and experience. So definitely not something to do as a starter.
High alert, and your partner is in very close physical proximity, we start to get into these feelings of arousal and excitement. So you have your hand placed about midway up your neck, maybe a little higher. This is going to be different for everyone, and it is important you practice on yourself so that you get a feeling for it before you do this to your partner. And especially when you're doing this to your partner for the first time, it is important that both of you have a clear and open line of communication. This is also the point where it is good to have a non-verbal signal. Now, if you're struggling to come up with them in the moment, just make it a simple wave of the hand. It doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to overthink it. So place your hand into your neck, and I want you to turn your fingers inward. So the pads on the tips of your finger are facing towards your neck. Now, with your fingers about halfway down depth-wise, halfway down your neck, I want you to start pressing in very, very slowly and very, very lightly. Now, if you're doing this right, it might be a little uncomfortable if you've never had it done to you before, but it should not hurt. If you're experiencing any pain, stop immediately. You might be pressing onto one of your lymph nodes. There's a lot of sensitive things in your neck, which is partly why it's such an erogenous zone, because it is a very vulnerable part of our bodies, and it is something that you do need a high level of.
I think he misspoke there. He said androgynous. I think he meant erogenous zone, not androgynous. It's the neck is a very erogenous zone. Um, again, like I'll let him keep going, but again, this is not something that I would recommend when you're first broaching into the world of BDSM.
Trust to give to in order to give your partner access to that. So press your fingers in very lightly. And as you do that, you'll start to feel your own pulse. You'll start to feel some pressure in your head. You'll obviously feel pressure in your neck. But the harder you press, slowly, the pulse will become stronger. And as the pulse becomes stronger, you'll start to realize, oh, the blood is restricting a little bit. Now, I want you to pay attention to the sensation of this, because this is what your partner is going to be going through as you do it. I know you're going to be excited in the moment, and sometimes it can be difficult to remain in your right mind, but this is important so you don't hurt your partner, and so you do build that trust. So you're pressing into your neck, you're restricting your blood, and keep that going for just a few seconds. If you do start to feel lightheaded, back off a little bit. If it starts to feel too much, back off a little bit. You don't have to get this right on the first try.
And this is why I say that this should not be step 2 for beginners. Is because there's a great deal of nuance when it comes to this kind of play. And as a beginner, when the only experience you've had prior to this is tying someone up, this is, in my opinion, a step too far. At this stage, you want to, there are a great deal of other things that you can do as better stepping stones into the world of BDSM after bondage. There's sensory play, there's impact play, light impact play, there's wax play, there's tickling play, there are a good wealth of activities available to you as the individual participating before you go into this level of play, because typically speaking, it's the experienced individuals that will go into that they will start going into choking or breath play, blood play in that, restrictive blood play like that. It's not a good idea to jump into this particular facet this quickly.
And now your pulse should be pounding against your fingers. It should be pounding in your head. You should be able to feel it clearly in your neck. And if you can't, adjust your position slightly. What you don't want to do is use the side of your fingers or use the bone or the joint of your fingers. You want to use the softest parts of your hand in order to do this so that you don't damage anything. This is the first method. Now, I want you to imagine doing this or having this done to you in the throes of passion. And this is where we're going to get the enjoyment out of it. And we're going to practice this over and over.
And bearing in mind, once you have some experience, this can be very enjoyable. Engaging in this kind of play can be very thrilling. It can be a great endorphin releaser. I'm not saying that this kind of activity is bad. All I'm saying is that this is not something to go into in the beginning. You need time to build your skills a little bit. You also need time to build your trust and knowledge of your play partner, to understand some of the intricacies of their reactions before you start broaching the subject of choking. So this is where I disagree with Intellectual on this being the next stepping point after bondage.
Or I want you to practice this over and over in your own time, because practice makes perfect. And when you are done having your fun, instead focus on the feeling through your fingers, because you're going to be able to feel things within your own neck and within your partner's neck. And this will help you locate those arteries, those veins. It's not quite so distinct all the time. It's difficult to describe. You can feel it, but it's nothing so distinct as a tube or so distinct as a pipe. It's not that clear. arteries are actually more like wet noodles once you get into it. So that's essentially what you're looking to feel. And follow the guidance of your partner. If they say it's too hard, if they say it's the wrong spot, let go, readjust, try again. Now that is the first method, and that is the method that you use to restrict the
Actually, what I could say is the first time you're going to practice doing this, do not do so. And he didn't specify this, but I'm guessing that he's implying this is when you are first trying this out, do not have any bondage involved whatsoever. When you are doing this with your partner should be completely unrestrained and have full use of their limbs. Because sometimes if they can't give you a verbal signal, they can give you a physical signal, like simply tapping you on the arm. Like that can be the signal. They can, your partner could be there. You can be, choking, quote unquote, your partner. And if they are not able to verbalize too much, they can do a tap, tap, tap on the arm. And there's a nonverbal signal that stop.
blood flow to your partner's head. Now, don't do that too much. Again, start slowly, build up to it. The second method I'm going to show you actually does involve restricting the airway slightly, but we are not going through the front of the neck. I do need to be very clear on that. If you go through the front of the neck and you are not clear on what you're doing, you do have a very good chance of breaking the hymen. Not hymen.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Intellectual. Where is your mind? Whom are you thinking about right now, intellectual? Whom are you thinking about right now? Because just so we're clear, the hymen is not located here. The hymen is located here. I would expect someone of intellectual's intellect to know the difference. Oh, intellectual, is your face turning red yet? Hmm? Are you feeling a little hot under the collar right now?
That's the word I'm looking for. There is a small bone, hyoid, that's the word I'm looking for. There is a small bone that protects the front of your neck. And if you press too hard on that, because it is a fairly delicate bone, you will break it. And that is a fairly frequent injury in this line, especially in the throes of passion. So this is part of the information I'm giving you that I want you to be careful of. We go through the sides of the neck, not the front. So pull your hand away completely. And I want you to do what you did before. I want you to have your palm flat, 4 fingers together, 1 thumb outstretched. Now I want you to press the crook of your hand strongly against the bottom of your chin, moderately towards the bottom of your chin. And I want you to feel along your jaw. Depending on how long your fingers are and how large your hand and face is, you might be able to get your fingers all the way to the back corner of your jaw where it starts to turn upwards. If you can't reach that far back, that's okay. Don't worry. We don't need to go that far back, but it's just a good place to center yourself on. Now I want you to
bear in mind something to bear in mind. The placement of the hand that he's talking about right now is also where the placement of a noose might go. This is why it can be very dangerous. Because I don't know if you're aware, but when, in ye olden times where a criminal offense was executed via hanging, the placement of the hand that he's talking about right now is where the rope would be placed, which is why it is crucial that you know what you're doing. You have complete trust in your partner. You have outstanding communication with your partner. And you don't jump into this too fast. Because this is absolutely a danger. Absolutely.
move your fingers a little ways back towards the front of your neck. You should be just a little bit in front of where your jaw starts to turn upwards. and I want you to press inwards, as before with the soft parts of your hand, of your fingers, but simultaneously I want you to press upwards. And you should feel there
That's the
is a
noose.
fairly large amount of resistance there. You should feel something within the neck. And I want you to squeeze on that just a little, a very, very small amount. And as you're breathing, you should feel that even a small amount of pressure dramatically increases the difficulty of breathing. And some people really enjoy that. They like to feel that they are in danger without actually being in danger. So it's okay if you don't enjoy it. It's okay if your partner doesn't enjoy it.
And again, that's they enjoy the feeling of being in danger because realistically, to a degree, they are in danger. And that's why only people that are experienced in BDSM should do this. There are other ways to induce fear. This one is definitely more experienced technique.
This is one of those advanced techniques that I don't want you to start with. I want you to build up to this. And if you are in the BDSM community, leave a comment with your thoughts as well, because I want you
I don't need to leave a
help me
comment.
explain
I'm
this
verbalizing
to
it
the
to you.
newbies. You might be able to explain this in a way that will help further clarify things. But when you are restricting the airway, you do need to be conscious that, well, you want to keep your partner conscious. And
Very much so.
asphyxiation is one of those things that you don't want to mess around too much with. You should ideally be doing a lot of your own research before attempting all of this. This is just a very high level overview, but it gives you an idea of what you don't want to be doing when you are trying to restrict the arteries as opposed to the airflow. Because when you have this difficulty in breathing, you're not pressing down on the airway, you're not pressing down on the artery, you're pressing down on the airway. So that's something to look out for, so that you know you're doing it wrong, you know to back off, you know to reset, both as someone who is doing this to their partner and as someone having this done to you. So let's recenter now. I've given you 2 different methods that you can try on yourself. But really, the most important thing that I can tell you beyond the consent.
Yes, Nux Guy, Cheryl is the extreme that no one, absolutely no one should mimic. Cheryl was a caricature of this for a reason.
Is the aftercare, because when we do get into these playgrounds, let's say, it can be very confronting, and we live our lives very defensively. You can make an excuse that it's because of the environment, it's because of society, it's because of this, that, or the other, but ultimately it's irrelevant what causes it. The truth is we do live very defensively, and so being able to surrender.
It's living defensively is human. What it boils down to is like living defensively is literally human nature. It is what has allowed humanity as a species to propagate throughout the millennia, is maintaining that, situational awareness, caution, safety, flight or fight response was, comes from the biological will to survive. So it goes beyond societal issues and is literally just a simple fact of human nature. It is hardwired into our brains from the moment we are born, and it has been for a millennia. That's why humanity has survived and thrived.
The truth is we do live very defensively, and so being able to surrender like that can be very confronting, and especially when you're new, it can be very upsetting. And so it is extremely important to have a partner that, when all is said and done, when you've both had your jollies and they are satisfied, that they still step over that line and make sure you are okay. Proper aftercare will bring you back to a sense of normalcy. You might have just been degraded. You might have just surrendered. You might have given up your autonomy entirely. And now it is time to get that autonomy back from your partner. And this is going to look different to everyone. Some people like to be belittled, they like to be mistreated. Some people
Let's see, it sounds like he's not really including most of the various play. Look, scroll up. Uh, so I think his leap from restriction to choking was more about how you as a beginner understanding how far the fear of harm thrills you, hence the teaching of you how to safely choke yourself to see if you even like the feeling at all. Possibly, he could possibly be going at that angle. I would still argue that even if you're doing it to yourself to see if you enjoy it in the first place, when you first start out with BDSM, you still want to go baby steps. I think choking is, even if you are testing it on yourself to see if you find it enjoyable, I think is leaping over a couple of steps on the way to that. That's my opinion. Uh, for others, maybe not. It's just in my experience that is you want to build to that. Even testing on yourself to see if you enjoy it, you do want to build to it.
to everyone. Some people like to be belittled, they like to be mistreated. Some people like to be told what to do, they like to have someone take charge. Some people
Yeah.
like to regain that sense of power for themselves.
Yeah.
But a good partner is going to learn what affirmations you want. And when
Sure.
you are the one doing this to a partner, you need to understand your partner is not generic human X. They have a name, they have a life, they have wants and dreams and desires. And if you're the kind of person that can be trusted, they might just look to you to fulfill a lot of them.
It's
You need to understand that this is a person you hold great affection for. And it's not about
Yeah.
the anatomy. It's not about the pleasure. It's about ensuring this person is safe and healthy when all things are said and done. That if you do need to part, because either they're going home, you're going home, irrelevant, that they are going to be able to return to the world and have their defenses up and be able to navigate day-to-day life. There are a great many self-stylized DOMs out there who do not do aftercare. It's all
Yeah.
about the abuse and the mistreatment. And for a small amount of you,
Okay, now it's story time. Because I've had experience on both sides of this. Um, I've okay, I will start with the bad. I was involved in a scene once, years ago that, was a fairly intense scene. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details because that would TOS me into oblivion. Suffice to say that at minimum, it did involve bondage and it did involve other things. Nothing extreme. You guys know that I don't go in on the whole, I don't go, pain is not my thing. But it did involve bondage as well as some other things. And it was a rather, it was a little intense in an enjoyable way. Once everything was all said and done, however, my dominant just kind of untied me and walked away and just left me alone. And I was just kind of like, it felt very alone. It felt very uncaring. And, I felt used. I did feel used by that person, and, it absolutely tarnished the experience. And so I, got up, straightened myself up, you collected my things, and said goodbye, and never engaged with that person again. That was the bad one. A good one that I had is where, again, I, engaged in a scene that was, again, full of bondage, and it was a deliciously intense scene. Not, like, overly so, but it was, like, the intensity was very delicious in its nature. I very, very much enjoyed myself, to say the least. And when it was all said and done, my dominant spent like 30 minutes just cuddling me. Like 30 minutes just cuddling me, stroking my hair, giving me gentle kisses on forehead while we just spoke quietly. And like I had like I had like sips of water, I had a little cup with water and I was like sipping some water while my dominant was cuddling me. And we were just talking about how things, how everything went, about about it being enjoyable. And it made me feel precious and it made me feel special. And that was the proper way to affect aftercare. I was able to come down off of my euphoric high in a gentle way where I was able to come back to myself, but I still felt cherished and I still felt special. And when I finally did leave to go home, I felt good. I felt, a little bit, walking on a cloud, and I felt really good. So that therein lies the difference between proper aftercare and improper aftercare. And you can, based on my experiences, you can tell how different it is in terms of what it can do, at least from a submissive standpoint, what it can do to the mindset of a submissive. On one for when I received zero aftercare whatsoever and was basically used like a blow up doll, effectively speaking, uh, it was a terrible experience, and I didn't enjoy it whatsoever. Thankfully, it did not put me off of enjoying BDSM as a whole. It just put me off of enjoying it with that particular individual. Whereas I received the good aftercare from my dominant, I was obviously far more inclined to engage in more scenes with them afterwards because not only did they treat me wonderfully during the scene itself, but they actually cared for me afterwards and made sure that they they were expressing how appreciative they were that I partook in the scene with them, how much they enjoyed it, and how much they cared about me. And obviously, that makes a world of difference for someone, particularly the submissive in this case, to be inclined to do more, to do another scene another time, or to even try something new in the next scene. That's where, like, aftercare is a lingering thing. It's the last thing you experience at the conclusion of a scene with someone. So that's why aftercare is crucial. Because if you receive poor aftercare, that is the last thought, that is the last feeling you will be experiencing from that scene. If it's bad, you're not going to want to do it again. If it's positive, if it's good, if it's gentle, if it's tender, if it's loving, you're going to retain all of those positive feelings that you experienced throughout the scene. It'll be a beautiful little and it'll be a beautiful little end cap to the entire scene that will leave the memory as a very pleasant glow in your chest. So that's why that's like I said I was going to talk about aftercare more at length, and that was the couple of stories that I wanted to tell you about aftercare that I've gone through, both from good and bad, so you can get an idea of the differences and how these differences can affect a submissive.
Care. It's all about the abuse and the mistreatment. And for a small amount of you, that will be fine. As long as you are approaching that with full consent, then that is your choice. But the vast majority, or let me use an anecdote.
And by the way, don't worry, I'm not going to rant. So I know you guys are bracing yourselves. I won't rant. Tap Boy, it's not 50 Shades of Grey. It's actual BDSM because 50 Shades of Grey, E.L. James particularly, does not have a sweet fucking clue how BDSM actually works. E.L. James is the reason why there is a gross misunderstanding of everything involving BDSM. She is an absolute, she gets everything wrong with BDSM. And that's before I even get into how she is an absolute dog shit writer in and of itself. And Hollywood did not help with exemplifying her psychopathic version of what she thinks BDSM is. Anyone and everyone that is involved in BDSM, one of the first things that they say is, you know, did you watch or read 50 Shades of Grey? If the answer was yes, they will say, literally forget everything you know, everything that dog shit story told you about BDSM. None of that exists. If they say no, they'll say, good, don't read it. It is a crime against people that actually want to engage in consensual BDSM. And that's before even getting into the fact that E.L. James cannot write to save her life. That's it. Oh, I have not, I am restraining myself from telling you what I really think about that. I've gone on rants before. I will not today. I will restrain myself like a good little subby girl. Just know that I hate anything and everything having to do with 50 Shades of Grey, and I think it is a blight on BDSM and a blight on literature as a whole.
But the vast majority, or let me use an anecdote here. Of all the stories that I've heard from this community, the most damaging ones come from DOMs who do not fully understand their position, both of power and their responsibilities for their charge,
Correct.
for their sub.
Correct.
So if you are a sub or you're doing some sub play, it is extremely important that your DOM will do that for you, because it can be very mentally damaging when they don't. And any good DOM will do this. Any good DOM can be that dominant force. They can take charge.
Yes,
they can order you around. They can give you everything you want whilst also looking after you. The moment you say no, they drop it and they go, are you okay? What can I do?
Yes.
What do you need from me?
Now, one of the things he is kind of leapfrogging past is he's basically saying, indicating that there is a go and a stop and nothing in between, when there is an in between. That's why I was referencing green, yellow, and red for safe words. It's not simply just go and then stop. There is go, and then there may be yellow. I'm starting to get a little nervous. We need to back down slightly, but not stop. It's just back off. We're starting to edge into uncomfortable territory. Let's back off and ease our way. Maybe try to ease our way back up there, or maybe go a different route. Try something else, but not actually stop. So there are layers to when it comes to using safe words and such. It's why a lot of couples, when they are engaged in play, the dominant will frequently ask the submissive, where are you at right now? And the submissive will respond with either green, yellow, or red. And that's, they will somewhat frequently check in on them and ask them that. And if it's yellow, it's like, okay, slow it down. Find out what's making them, if you're doing multiple things, find out what is making them uncomfortable and slow it down or back off of it. Doesn't mean you have to stop. It's not ending the scene, but you just got to back off of it because that's pushing them a little bit too much.
Let's stop. Let's talk. Forget about everything else that was going on. What do you need from me? That is what a good DOM will do. So if you have a DOM that does not do that, you need to seriously consider whether you continue that relationship, because it will damage you. Maybe not today.
Yes.
Maybe not
Yes.
tomorrow, but in the long run, that is where we start to run into a lot of issues. And I believe most anyone in the BDSM community will agree with me. So if you find someone who...
Well, Nux Guy, to your point, with me leaves out at the aftercare part, so it just comes off as being hurting. They leave out the aftercare even with bondage. Even with something as simple as bondage, there is aftercare. because bondage in and of itself can bring about that feeling of subspace. And once the scene is over and you are untied, you need to come back down to earth. And so aftercare is just as important with non-impact play, which involves pain in some way, as yeah, it's important for that for the impact play. It's also important for non-impact play. It's just you got to remember whenever you partake in BDSM as a whole in any BDSM scenario, there is aftercare because the submissive is transitioning into a point of subspace that is literally mind altered. You are experiencing euphoria. Your neurons are firing. You're getting intense amounts of dopamine hits, and you need to come back down from that. And that's where the aftercare comes into play. Is the dominant is there to care for you and to guide you back down to that plane of normalcy, so to speak. So yeah, it's anytime you engage in BDSM, you always want to have some kind of aftercare. And it doesn't even have to be long. It could just be a couple, like 2 or 3 minutes of the dom just be like, just being with the submissive, talking, literally just talking to them. Depending on you as the individual, what works for you. Simply talking to someone can be enough of aftercare just to get them right back into that more normal headspace once again. But it does need to happen. You're stuck on how the media leaves the second part. Oh yeah, absolutely. That is one thing that the media absolutely screws up every single time. And the reason why is because partially they're stupid, partially because time constraints. Unfortunately, when the media does the BDSM scene, they want to get out the exciting, sexy scene, but their time constraints for telling their story may not necessarily allow for them that time to showcase the aftercare because they do need to continue to further the story. And unfortunately, the majority of people's introduction into BDSM is popular media. And so so many of them come in unaware of the aftercare part because for one reason or another, it is never shown in popular media.
And I believe most anyone in the BDSM community will agree with me. So if you find someone who has a differing opinion on that, definitely have your guard up because that's not the way we want to do that. But once you do find someone who you are able to establish,
you are exactly correct. It doesn't keep the audience engaged. Yeah, it doesn't keep the audiences engaged as when the girl is tied up, moaning and arching her back, and the guy's plowing her, and they're both moaning and kissing, and yeah, it's not, the aftercare is not as stimulating. You basically you get that dopamine hit from watching a sexy scene of two people engaged in kinky sex. The aftercare is boring by comparison, at least for the traditional vanilla audience.
want to do that. But once you do find someone who you are able to establish that trust
Absolutely,
with, then you can get into
absolutely both sides can. Absolutely. Now, both sides can give aftercare, although typically speaking, the submissive is typically the one that needs the aftercare more because they are the ones that experienced a great deal more stimulation than the dominant. So there is a mutuality in there in aftercare where the dominant is offering care to the submissive. The submissive, in his or her own way, is offering aftercare to the dominant by simply just being held by them, talking to them, cuddling them. That in and of itself also can function as aftercare for the dominant. And yes, Nailing. Sunstone, I love Sunstone. I love Sunstone. Stizek is he's done such a fantastic job with those graphic novels. They are fantastic. Yeah, for those of you that want to see a realistic depiction of a BDSM couple and lesbian couple at that. Stejic's graphic novels Sunstone are fantastic. It not only shows the sexy titillating parts, it shows the aftercare, and it shows the reality of what happens between two people that are involved in a BDSM relationship. It shows the realities of it outside of the scenes. It is fantastic, and I can absolutely recommend people check it out if you wanted to take a look at it. And a lot of his stuff is on DeviantArt. He actually has an account on DeviantArt with entire graphic novels for free to read on DeviantArt. I think they're still on DeviantArt. Actually, he might have moved them off DeviantArt, but there'll be links to where you can get them. So yeah, definitely recommend.
But once you do find someone who you are able to establish that trust with, then you can get into all the fun things. Like I'm a particular fan of body swings myself. You know, there's a reason you can put hooks in the ceiling. And guys, if some of you are renters and you are wanting to explore this, put in a hook in the ceiling, a very large, heavily bolted hook.
Hard points.
I've never had any of the real estate inspectors even notice once I've taken that big silver hook out. So you don't need to worry too much about it.
Yeah. Depends on where you live.
But with that, guys, I can hear you asking, okay, Lord Intellectual, are you a Dom? Are you a sub? Are you a switch? Well, I'll answer that in a moment. You've been good. You've listened through this whole video.
He's going to say Dom. He might be a bit. I definitely think he is a bit of a switch. He's trying to exert Dom by saying, I know you're all wondering, are you a Dom or a switch? I'll tell you in a moment. He's definitely trying to exert Dom right there. I suspect he, if the mood strikes, can be a switch, which is the same way that I am. By default, as you know, I am very subby. I'm a very submissive little slave girl. Absolutely. But if the mood is right, I can certainly go Dom. I certainly could if the mood strikes properly.
But before I answer that, do allow me to do all of the typical YouTuber things, like, subscribe, especially for this video.
Yes, he's doing the YouTube engagement thing, but why do you think he's doing that after asking that question? He's still exerting dominance. Do you want to know? Okay, I'll tell you in a moment while I exert my dominance and pause you while I do my YouTube engagement thing. It's still a dominant play. And thank you, Zeb.
It was very likely to be age restricted. And you're also going to be asking, well, okay, Lord Intellectual, you typically make political content. Why are you making this video now? Well, this is something I have extensive experience in, so this video was always going to be made regardless. But let's just say it's recently come to my attention that a certain object of my affection may have an interest in this topic. So it got pushed up the priority list. And ultimately, it's serendipity. Today just seemed like a good way to do it. They also might need some help controlling a whip, apparently. But
wait, I laughed over that. What did he say?
A good way to do it. They also might need some help controlling a whip, apparently. But ultimately, if it is to be explored, then I want them and all of you to do so safely. So thank you for that. So now, you've all been good. You've watched this far into the video. So as promised, the answer to the question you're burning to know, no. I am not a Dom, nor am I a sub, nor am I a switch. I am what's called a master. Now, what is a master, Lord Intellectual? Well, you'll just have to hope I realize I release another video in this series, eh?
Oh, yes, master. Yes, indeed.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching along. Let's finish up there. And if you walk away from this video, I do want to reiterate, imagine that surrender. Both surrendering your own autonomy and having that autonomy surrendered to you. And things will start to become clear. Thank you so much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Hey. Very nice. Very nice indeed. Ooh. And of course, I will link you the video in case you want to rewatch it. Evil Amy, overall, a good video. Whoops, sorry, I turned you guys off. Overall, a good video. Although again, there were a couple points, obviously, that I disagreed with him on. But that is but again, it is my opinion. My opinion is not the, one opinion to rule them all. Neither is intellectuals. We both have our own individual viewpoints on this particular subject matter. So but overall, it was a very good video to at least verbalize an introduction for people who are interested in engaging with BDSM. So overall, I very much enjoyed it, and I do certainly hope that dear Master enjoys my reaction. Please make sure to let me know if you enjoyed it, Master.